I'm in. Are you ready to?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm trying to figure out if I need to visit the loo first.
Really? Do you really think this is the time to be deciding that? There we go. That's the intro. You can go to the toilet if you need to.
I can't talk about my start in photography without mentioning my dad. He was always into photography and always encouraged me. When I was about, I think, maybe like 9 or 10, I got my first camera, which was like a little silver, one of them things that like you turn it on and the zoom comes out. It was a Vivitar something or other. And I remember that it was like, took an SD card and 2 AA batteries. And for me, I just loved having something at which I could like capture a memory in. There was something about, I've always been someone who like memories, friendships, those kind of things, they were always really important to me. And I remember like on my last day of primary school, I took photos of everybody on my camera and things like that. So I could always look back on what was, you know, that freeze in that moment in time, it actually meant a lot to me when I was younger. And then, trying to think, and then my dad gave me his 10D with a 24-70 on it, and I use that intermittently, you know. I'd sort of like come back to it every now and again, say if there was a occasion for it. I remember once we went to Stonehenge with Ellen and Molly, who are some childhood friends of ours, and I took it then and took photos of people at Stonehenge and things like that. And you look back at some of the images and you're like, that's not bad, you know, for like a teen with a camera. And then I'm trying to remember, we got Nokia phones. We all had Nokia phones, which were meant to have really good cameras on them because they had like Carl Zeiss lenses in them. And I used that for ages as well. And just throughout my early life, I always had something at which I could like capture memories in and specific sort of, and Instagram actually played a big part in it as well, because I'd always like take photos of what was going on my phone and then like pop them on Instagram, like back in the days when you put like Mayfair on everything and things like that. So yeah, it was always a way of me capturing something, whether that was a memory, a moment, someone's face that I wanted to remember, a particular day at which I've really enjoyed myself and I wanted like a memento. It was just a way of me, you know, like immortalizing something.
Yeah, I think photography is a really good way of using that, isn't it? You know, like I personally have looked back on things, and whilst quite a lot of the time you look back and you're like, oh, that's not so great, you know, it's more about what's behind the photo, because I can look at a photo that you've taken or that I've taken from, you know, kind of the start of everything and look at it and go like, that's a terrible photo, but I remember the day. I remember the moment that, you know, this was taken. You know, there's so many photos from like the summer that we've captured that was just, you know, I remember the exact like 10-minute span of the photo that's being taken. And it's really nice that you know, were able to take the photos early enough so that you kind of have quite a complete timeline. And I think that's really, really nice, because a lot of people don't have that, you know. So many people say, oh, you know, you need to start documenting stuff now, you know, start now. But your now was quite a while ago, and I think that's really nice.
And the thing is as well, I even had a DS with a camera on it, a Nintendo DS. You know, everyone had the DS Lite and they were like chatting to each other on picture chat and things like that. But for me, one Christmas, Thomas, our older brother, he got a iPod Touch, I think, and I got a DSi and you got a DS Lite. And that having a camera on it, once again, I was just going around taking photos of everything. I've got Christmases spent at relatives, you know, like with people in like the paper crowns and stuff and things like that. And it's just always been a way of looking back on it. While I used to not really consider myself a photographer back then, I've always been taking photos. And then like when you get, as I said, like with phones and stuff like that, it's just I've always been capturing those moments.
Something that's quite funny is like you speak about our dad and you look back through all the photos that he's taken, and one thing you always notice, or you don't notice depending on how you look at it, is the lack of him in the photos. And I'm sure you have that as well. You know, you look back at yours and you take photos of everything around you, but not of you and what's going on with you, which is just quite an interesting thing.
I mean, I'm sure you'll remember that at one point it was fed back to us that people thought that my Instagram was run by you and your Instagram was run by me, because all we were posting at one stage was just photos of each other, to the point where it looked like, because everyone on social media usually takes photos of themselves, to have someone else so prominently featured, it just made it look like it was that person's account. And it's been a huge part, you know, like I always really enjoyed being behind the camera. I've always felt like an observer in life, and when I was younger, you know, like I'd sort of use it to distance myself a little bit, but now I sort of see it as a strength in terms of being able to take a step back from a situation and see it, you know, see the whole thing, rather than being so close to a situation that you can't actually see the bigger picture.
Yeah, no, I think that's really nice. And as you've spoken about, kind of like, you know, you've always been kind of a photographer, but just not realised it. When did you actually, you know, kind of like finalise the idea that photography was what you wanted to do?
I think for me, after coming back from my time in Brighton, after spending some time at home going, what am I going to do? The decision to go back to the level 3 TV and film course at Wiltshire College, that was a big moment for me, because I've been given this opportunity to sort of rethink where I was going with my life, you know, potentially readjust a couple of things. And the decision to go back, because I'd done that course once before when I was 18, but to go back and sort of actually, I really enjoyed what I did there. I just couldn't commit to it at the time. So going back onto that course was I'd say that was the moment at which I sort of leveraged into, you know, being who I am now. Being on that course, being creative, you know, like meeting all the other people, filming stuff, you know, like we filmed music videos and stuff at Harry Potter World. There was Kiss and Tell as well and things like that. Those using the camera, you know, like getting people to stand in certain ways and stuff. While being on that course right from the start, I was taking photos of everything on my phone and just sort of snapping everything that we were doing. If you go right down to the bottom of my Instagram, you'll just see photos of you and photos of what we were doing at college. That was all it was. And then I think the specific moment in which I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do, was the trip to Berlin that we took. It was in the March, I think it was right at the beginning of March, just before, you know, like the very first lockdown hit. I remember that there was a lot of weighing up whether or not we were even going to go. But we made the decision at the time to take cameras with us, and I made the decision to take my 40D, once again, another camera that Dad had got for me. So I took my 40D and a 17-40, and the whole time, and I had a strap, I remember, and it was one of them straps that you just bring it up like that and then pop it back. And I was just wandering around the streets of Berlin, just taking photos of people, taking photos of the architecture, because it was a completely different environment. And being in that completely different environment where I was sort of fascinated by everything that was going on around me, it really served to motivate me to take photos because of that curiosity and that, you know, that real interest in what was going on around me. And as you said, you know, sometimes you look back at photos and you're like, oh, that's really not that good. But some of the photos that I took in Berlin, even though that was actually the first time that I'd attempted using a camera, I look at them and I'm like, I'm really proud of those photos. And while I was taking those photos, I was shooting in auto. You know, I wasn't shooting raw images, so I can't really go back and edit them because it's, you know, not that I don't think I'd ever want to. The edits on them are a reflection of my talent at the time. But yeah, that trip, being there with just a camera and just taking photos of what was going on, as I said, the architecture and everything. When I came back from that trip, I was like, I love that. Let's carry on, and started taking photos around Salisbury.
I think that's really nice. You know, when we went to Berlin, through no fault of anybody's, there wasn't really anything to do except mess around in the city and, you know, take photos of what we were doing at the time. You know, a lot of our people on our course just spent a load of money on scooters and, you know, the electric ones and all of this stuff. But I think it's really nice that you know, you kind of had nothing to do, so you turned back to the photography that you'd done for quite some time, and that was the moment that it really became clear that it was what you wanted to do. I think that's really, really nice. But one of the questions that I have for you now is like, not so much when did you think this is what you wanted to do, when did you really feel like it was, you know, this could be a full career for you?
I think for me, the sort of confidence boosts where I was like, oh, maybe I could do this. It's always been when people have reached out to me. So I was posting street photography in Salisbury for ages. You and I would just go out all the time, just take photos at night consistently. We're just always posting photos and, you know, like short little videos and stuff from us going out and taking photos. And it always kind of felt like, you know, like we were doing it, we were almost like part of the underground scene, you know, because it didn't feel like a lot of people knew us, knew what we were doing. We were just wandering around unseen, doing whatever we wanted with the cameras. And sort of turning points for me where I was like, oh, maybe there's the opportunity to transfer into something more professional, has specifically been around people finding my contact information, getting in touch with me and saying, do you know what, I absolutely love your work. I love what you've been posting. Do you think you could come and do that for us? And that was a big thing for me because I wasn't really reaching out to anybody because I kind of felt like I was enjoying it so much. I didn't want to end up doing a style of photography or a type of photography that I didn't enjoy. Because at the time, I didn't really believe that commercial photography, I'd enjoy it as much as the photography that I was doing outside of it. I'm trying to think of like a specific moment. I think one of the big things that happened, I'll say recently, probably around November 2021, was the council got in touch with me. I remember getting their email and it literally saying, hey Sam, we absolutely love your work. We were wondering if, you know, like you'd be willing to do some photos in your style for us. And I looked at the email and I thought, scam. Straight away, I just wrote it off straight away. I was like, there's no way that's real. But there was a little part of me that was like, oh, and then looking at the email address, there's no hyphens, there's no weird symbols in it, it was literally .org.uk and everything, and I was like, maybe they are who they say they are. Maybe it is the council who are getting in touch to me. And having that conversation with them, we set up a meeting and I was sort of sat there having the conversation with these guys. And they were saying, you've been capturing Salisbury and documenting Salisbury in a way which we would never have thought of doing. And I was like, yeah. Being sort of affirmed like that and having people say, you know, like, your work is unique and being sought out because of that. Those moments have really made me feel like what I'm doing has meaning, that what I'm doing has, it's always been important to me, but all of a sudden I saw that it's starting to, or is important to other people who follow the work, who really enjoy it, or message me and say, I really love this photo, or comment and things like that. Those people recognizing me for my work, the gears started turning in my mind, and I was like, oh, okay. So other people think that this is valuable. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was that other people were looking at me and thinking, wow, I like that.
It's nice as well, isn't it? You know, it's like you say, it is that confidence boost. It's that, you know, also like it. Well, I don't want to repeat what you've just said, but it's true. It's like for quite some time you kind of convince yourself that you're the only one who cares about your work, because you're not seeing, like, I guess, tangible results. But then you get a couple people, you know, even if it's just like a comment on a photo saying, you know, this has inspired me to try this, or, you know, whatever it is. It's so nice when someone comes to you and says, you know, you're doing great, and you're making me think about what I'm doing, and that's something that's really, really nice.
And something that comes from that is it starts to become a communal experience. We have made so many friends and connections, and I'll speak for myself, but I've met so many people through photography. People recognize me for my photography, and it creates a bridge between me and other people. You know, someone that would never have any reason to, you know, like get in touch with me or anything like that is saying, hey, I love this. Do you mind if I try something similar? And it's like, yeah, of course, go for it. And then you look into them and you start having other conversations. That having that common thread between people has connected me with so many people. It's connected me with, you know, potential clients, but also a lot of our friends, a lot of the people that we spend a good amount of our lives with are all because of this. And it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside to know that, like, just because I decided I really enjoy taking photos, I'm going to pursue this journey. We've got the friends that we do now, and the setup that we do now.
I mean, it's really nice that you feel that way. And so far, you know, you and I both know this stuff isn't only positive. You know, there are negatives to it, and there are, you know, challenges that you have to face. And my question to you now is, like, what would you say has been the biggest challenge? Because obviously there's little things like your SD card running out whilst you're on a shoot, or forgetting a battery whilst you're on a shoot, and little things like that. But there are big things that can sometimes get in the way. So what would you say your biggest one has been?
I think it's attempting to convince people that I'm a professional, that I'm serious about what I do. I don't believe in polishing your online appearance or polishing your appearance in general and putting up a facade of I'm very professional, you can trust me, because you start to look at that person as not human anymore. You start to look at that person as just someone who offers a service. And the thing for me is that I really believe in, you know, not hiding my personality, not I don't want to say not filtering, but kind of not going, oh, maybe I won't because people might think a certain way about me. I want to unapologetically be myself. But something that comes with that is that because I might not always be, you know, like dressed a certain way, or speaking in a certain tone or something that most people would associate with that, I've noticed that people struggle to, it's like people can only perceive you as one thing. You're either a professional, a photographer, or, you know, like you're a young person, or you're, and it just seems like for me, I want to be realistic with people, not only in my online presence, but also with me as a person. And to say that as a human, I have many different sides to me. You know, there's a side to me that's incredibly assertive and can take control of a situation. And sort of direct and manage a team of people. And there's also a part of me which, likes to sit back, play games and, socialize and relax with people. I never want to be putting out there that I am just ultra professional all of the time, because I don't think it's real. And I'd rather be real and give people a clearer image of who I am as a person. But something that comes with that is just that, as I said, people struggle to see a person as having multiple different sides. It's like you might see someone who works in a job in customer service. You only ever view that person as their customer service role. You don't think about that person as a person. And so me sort of feeling quite strongly about that and wanting to give people a true reflection of who I am, it sometimes confuses people, because they're like, wait, are you a student or are you a professional? Are you a business or are you a young person? It's like they want to place you in that box so they can understand you better. But for me, and one could argue that I'm getting in my own way by doing that. But I just strongly believe in being accepted as a human, as a person, with multiple different sides, multiple different shades to my personality. But that doesn't mean that I'm somehow any less more professional than someone else. It just means that that's a part of me.
Is there anything else you want to say? I think we've pretty much covered everything.
I think we pretty much covered everything as well. Shout outs to my dad.
Should we put him on set?
Yeah.
Put him on set, come on.
Come
Come on.
You got to stand in front of it.
No, sit in my seat.
Go on, sit down.
Hello.
You're the reason why we're here with all the cameras and everything.
So I understand. I've a lot to answer for.
Yeah, that's all really. Thank you.
Okay? Peace and love.